Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. I have a controversial episode for you today. And honestly, it's been something I have been looping on and tinkering with for 7 years. So if you are ambitious, if you have ever set sights you never thought you'd actually be able to see, if you like to have, what did they call it in corporate for a minute? BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. If you think you set yourself up for failure because the drive to not fail is so powerful, you would never let yourself fall flat on your face. Therefore, you succeed at all costs. If you are a doer, the one who gets it done, the problem solver, the fixer, the hero, the martyr, the mom. If you're the person that everybody turns to when they've got a problem, this episode is for you, my friend. The challenge with identifying as any one of those labels is you might find yourself feeling a little exhausted a lot of the time. You might also notice you've got a few codependent relationships or even enmeshed partnerships in your world. You might experience a little bit of resentment and bitterness or straight up frustration, rage, maybe even worse, depression, apathy, overwhelm. And the one we all hate the most, victimization, victimhood, victim identifying, poor me pity parties, as I like to call them, which I experience on the regular because I have absolutely called myself all of those things. I used to literally have problem solver on my business card. So what we're going to talk about today is why that energy is so freaking powerful and how we've used it up until now. The biggest impact it's making on you and why it's actually dangerous. And the choice you're going to find yourself with at the end of this episode. So thank you for being here. We're going to dive deep into the dark secret that is we actually love to shit all over ourselves, aka shit all over ourselves, use force and fear and blame and shame and all of the shit we tell ourselves we're not doing anymore because it is the best strategy to date that we have used to create success. So in my training, and I did a whole series of podcasts on these, giving it all away for free, as I like to do in these podcasts, called Energy Leadership. And it's a very simple framework. It absolutely borrows from psychology, from spirituality, from physicality. At the end of the day, I find that so many of these different doctrines or philosophies or sciences or belief systems are all kind of pulling from the human experience over the last couple thousand years, right? And there's some pretty basic patterns in our energetic experiences. So how we are responding to and engaging with our world. Some people like to call that your attitude. Some people call it your mindset. Some people call it your energy. It doesn't really matter what we call it. But from my perspective and from the training that I've received, there's 7 different levels. Each level represents an energetic state, a particular mindset or perspective. I experience it as a frequency. And that connects you to a desired result. So the only reason we're ever feeling anything or thinking anything, and then that is we're either thinking thoughts and labeling experiences or having experiences and then justifying them with our thoughts, is to get a desired result. And if we don't like that result, we need to reverse engineer it, right? And figure out why are we choosing that energetic level. Again, I'm a big believer that we are only ever doing what we think we need to get what we want. So by bringing some awareness to that patterning, we can understand why we use force or fear, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of what will everybody think, imposter syndrome. I have to, I can't, I need to, there's no other options, what I like to call the binary, the either or, the better, bad, the good, worse, the evil, the wrong, the injustice. Those are all incredibly heavy, hard challenging experiences. The poor me, that I have no choice. I am completely disempowered. This is out of my control. There's nothing I can do. This will never, right? And it's not to say those things aren't true. Those experiences or those descriptions aren't true. It is, however, within your wheelhouse to ask, how much do I want to believe any one of these things? How much do I want to feel this, and for how long? When I first started studying coaching, and it was completely by accident, I just wanted to be a better leader in the organization that I was working at. I was given this framework and asked to give this assessment that helps people understand their own energetic makeup and how to then strategize based on what it is that they desire, their existing tendencies, habits, defaults, the ways that they've been thinking and feeling to get what they want that aren't working anymore, and new strategies to introduce, right? And I did this with a doctor. And the doctor said to me, why the fuck would I ever want to give up that force and that fear of failure, that scarcity mentality of I will never get what I want. There will never be enough. I have to work every minute of every day in order to eke out my own existence and safety and security for my family. The world is out to get me. The man is out to get me. The system is rigged. Life is unfair. You never know what's going to happen. There's an emergency around the corner, and that emergency is going to be really expensive. It is all of those thoughts and fears and a whole bunch more that pushed him through med school, through residency, through fellowship, through physical challenges, through emotional challenges to build the success that he had. And he said, there's no way I would ever want to release or give any of that up. Okay, that's totally fair. That's what I talk about when I say choice. And also, this individual is on high blood pressure medicine. When we were having this conversation, he was in his late 20s. He had just gotten dumped by his long-term partner who he thought he was going to marry. He was not sleeping. He was not able to keep food down. So he was getting malnourished, which was affecting his performance at work, so on and so forth, right? So the cost, which I look at as the investment of success, was higher than the reward. And at the end of the day, if your strategy is not yielding your desired results, if the cost of your success outweighs the reward, you're in deficit. And that will catch up with you. It's like blowing out your credit card balance or asking that one friend for too many favors and then they stop answering your phone calls, right? Like there's a certain amount of bandwidth available to us in any given day, project, relationship, etc. And when we max it out, we have to take time to recover. You've heard me say balance is a verb. It is not a state of being. And this is what I mean. It's about recognizing the cost is beginning to outweigh the benefit. What do I want to scale back? And for the people who are using fear and force as fuel, you were running on empty. And that is why you're getting sick. That is why you're not sleeping. That is why you have ulcers. That is why your body hurts. That is why your brain hurts. That is why you're gaining weight, like so on and so forth. It's why your friends or family are angry at you or resentful at you, or maybe you're lacking connection. It's why you don't feel like you get to do all of the things that you want to do. It's why on the weekends you're just Netflixing and chilling. Like there's so much of our lives that we put on autopilot because we're using, shitty carbs to run our day to day. I'm recording this and sharing this with you, not from a place of judgment, I promise you that, but from a place of experience, having hit that burnout wall that many times, having been through 10 years of therapy and medication, having just on the other side of a pretty gnarly life experience where I recognized I was not at my best and my work was not at my best. And I was giving myself the space so that I could run at a reasonable speed using very nutritious fuel so that I wouldn't break myself and that I could continue to be the resource that I needed to be in my business, in my personal life, in my community, in my world, and it all actually got done. And I'm very happily and healthfully being able to live to tell the tale. And I'm not also saying this to brag or say I'm the shining example by any means, but what I can tell you is choosing me and choosing the energy that I'm putting in my gas tank to use as fuel has taken practice, but it has changed everything in my life. And post the loss of my mother, what the feedback I got was, you are so strong. And when you're in an experience like that, this just happened, by the way, but when you're in an experience like that, you don't feel strong, like you don't feel like the hero. But what people were saying is you seem to be able to keep it all going, and it doesn't seem to be breaking you apart. And again, that's not a medal to be worn. It's not a badge of honor. It's just to say the thing that I always kind of go back to is you get to do it all and have it all with conscious choice about what you're prioritizing and how you're going to engage with that particular activity. The first thing I want to share is just stop, drop, and roll. That was do they still do that? I think there's like much, I don't know what the right word is. It was a drill we did in elementary school, which in the States is when you're going to school up until about, 10, 11 years old. When there was a fire, because there are was it a fire? Yeah, fire in California. There were also earthquakes, right? So those were drills that we did all of the time. I don't know if they still do those in school, but I like to think of like stop, drop, and roll, or stop, collaborate, and listen, which was a really bad 90s rap song. I am dating myself. Anywho, the point being, just notice. My heart's racing. I was literally going through this with a client yesterday, and they were saying that once their heart starts racing, that's their body telling them, I am dysregulated. We are in a stress state. And here's the thing, your physical body doesn't know the difference if somebody's chasing you down an alley with an axe, or a bear is chasing you in the woods, or like you just got a shitty email. That literally just happened to me. I get to then go, you know what? I'm going to go outside for a second and just feel the sun on my skin and listen to the birds chirp and look at nature. And I'm going to come back in and record another podcast episode. Because if I record this from a place of stress and doubt and just distraction, like, oh, I wonder what's happening. I wonder, did I fuck it up? Are they mad at me? Like, those are some of the dialogues I like to use to push me closer towards success that don't work anymore and affect everything around me. So it's just bringing awareness to what are these thoughts or what are these feelings, depending on how you show up. It always pops into my head first, and then my body will let me know what's going on. Those of us that are having an emotional experience, and I don't mean like you're super emotional. I just mean you feel the feelings first. We tend to then use the mind to label this as like good or bad, right or wrong, better or worse, right? And so it's just bringing attention to how have I labeled this, and is that serving me? I use this example a lot, but the physical feeling, your mouth's sweaty is like how I describe it. My fingers are tingly, my chest, my heart will start racing, my chest, I'm like breathing more shallow. I feel it, like my shoulders might hunch. When you think about that, what emotion do you think I'm describing? The description is a thought. So nervous, right? But what if I were on a roller coaster, and I love roller coasters? You'd probably be describing excitement. Now, when you think about doing something that might intimidate you, let's do public speaking, it's obvious. You could describe yourself as being very nervous, and that is going to affect everything that happens after it. Your delivery, more importantly, how people receive you, the inspiration you're able to tap into while you're giving that speech, etc. But if you describe it as excitement, and maybe you have some techniques to actually move that excitement through you, it then becomes a playful experience, a joyous, more expansive, open experience instead of constricted and fearful. And that's what I'm talking about. The fearful fuel will get you out of that alley, potentially get you away from the bear, or maybe just get the bear's attention, but it's not sustainable. You can't sprint for very long. You can't hide for very long. You can't shake and cry and be concerned and wonder and get things done. And not that that's the goal, but the point being, if you're using fear and force to fuel your tank, you're running on empty. And that, my friend, is why the doctor is now going to therapy and medicated and microdosing and taking a day off a week and saying things like, wow, if I worked a little bit less, I reckon I could be so much more happy. Or what if you just approached work a little bit differently? Would that be a willing experiment where we release the force and the fear and we step into something like, my work connects me to my service? And I love being in service. I love helping people. So that brings us to our second little tip here. And again, it's never for me to tell you what to do. I'm just sharing some insights, and some of this is going to really resonate. Most of it probably won't. That means it's not for you. But I had a client 2 days ago ask me, I don't have the same get up and go that I used to. Now that we've processed all of this, I'm not afraid any longer. I've got nothing to prove. I feel like I could retire right now. Why am I still working? That's a great fucking question, my friend. Why are you? And I know the answer for this client, but obviously it's important to get really clear and to remind yourself what it is you want, because then that is the opportunity to choose the energy, the attitude, the perspective, the mindset that's going to connect you to that. It's never going to be fear or force. And when you release those from your experience, when you actually feel and process and understand what that energy is, just an old way of getting you to do something, you get to find a new way of doing something. This is Simon Sinek's Your Why, right? So dream into it. Think about it. Now, knowing you're safe, you're secure, that's ultimately what that fear and force is trying to do, is just get you safe and secure and in control. Where to from here, my friend? The world is your oyster. You can rinse, wash, repeat. You can double, triple, 10x, 100x your success with this new space and capacity and creativity and intuition and belief and faith. So much more opens up. And my training truly said, you get endless opportunity and limitless potential when you unlock these levels of experience. And you do that simply by feeling, processing, and letting go of that fear and that force. Spend some time thinking through your ideal day. I have an exercise for this somewhere. It's in all of my courses. But imagine yourself in the future waking up, living a day in your life. That is going to tell you so much about what it is you want and where you're going. And then you can reverse engineer that. Are you working? Do you have a team? Are you at work? Are you in an office? Are you traveling? How did you get there? All of the answers to those questions will help you understand, I work with a team. I have an office. I have a home office. It's on the second level. I have a balcony, so on and so forth, right? It sounds ridiculous, but when you know what those details are, you can then start to am I on a balcony? Am I at my home office right now? Oh, okay, that's a gap. I get to fill that now. So I personally find that to be a really useful exercise whenever I'm feeling flat, or when I actually have kicked all the goals I set out for myself. And I'm like, well, where the fuck to from here, BZ? What are we doing now? When you're using that imagination and that visioning to create, firstly, it's a privilege. I absolutely get that. You got to get yourself to safety, security, control first. The fear and the force isn't going to get you there either, though, because you will never actually believe that you are safe or secure if you're using fear to power you. And that means you will constantly be playing not to lose, which is a completely different game than everybody gets to win. There's a flow and a trust that shows up in this space. And it gives you this ability to find resilience and peace even in the worst situations. So knowing this is potentially a huge failure and I'm okay. This will be okay. We will all be okay. We're going to get through this. Just noticing how often force and fear show up in your day-to-day is incredibly powerful. And a trick that I like to do is actually let myself, I think I've talked about the worry tree about 1,000,000 times. I think a couple episodes I'm going to link to are also like celebrating problems and why problems are awesome, but I don't want to get too into that here. Just putting a date and time on your schedule for when you will get back to thinking about that thing. And in the interim, I call it the thresholds of decisions. oftentimes we can't take action or we don't know what to do because we don't have enough information yet. Stressing about it actually narrows our focus and it disables us from figuring out what it is that we want. And that's ultimately what we're talking about today. What do we really want? Not what are we avoiding or trying to get the fuck away from? So by putting something on a calendar, firstly, you're going to relax because your ego is going to go, okay, we're dealing with this. It's been planned. We're being responsible. But what the real trick is you're going to notice how many times you distract yourself with that fury and that worry. The fury. Sure, the fury. But what you'll see is how much you've been using fear and force to fuel your tank. And again, no judgment. It's not bad. Energy's not bad. It's just not sustainable. And so assuming you're trying to climb a bigger mountain, tackle bigger goals, take on more risk, AKA play a bigger game, achieve more than you ever have before, there's an inherent risk and uncertainty in that. And that can be fun. In the same sense that nervous can be excitement, risk and the unknown can be exploratory and adventurous. It can feel curious and playful when you release the old strategy of scaring the shit out of yourself and forcing yourself and beating the shit out of yourself or letting judgment or imposter syndrome drive you. I think the last thing that I want to say is the real reason I'm having this conversation is I do believe everybody gets everything they want. And if you haven't done that yet, it's because what you're doing isn't working, right? You're just defaulting to old habits and old tendencies because they have gotten you here. And you've done a great fucking job to get here. But what got you here won't get you there. It'll just keep you here. So unless everything is amazing in your life, which it might be, you're probably going to need to try some new things. Now, if everything is amazing in your life, my sense is you have this capacity to create or travel or experience. What do you want to do with that? Being able to ask yourself, what do I want? And doing it from a place of growth rather than limitation is how we truly impact the world, but figure out what our unique role and purpose is. And it's from there that you can actually take you and the essence of you into the world and create more or do more or work more or chill the fuck out, but be this ripple, this wave of impact and positivity. And you get to define exactly what that means. And I think in what can feel like a pretty insane world that we're in, when you can come from a place that feels safe and secure and positive and allow others in your experience to do the same, and that ripple and compounding effect, if we were all doing that, we wouldn't live in this chaotic, crazy, sometimes horrendous world. And we can't change that, but we can absolutely make changes in our day-to-day. And so that's why I think this is so important. That's why I love working with people in business. I think they're creating these little microcosms, these little mini worlds that hopefully allow other people to experience safety, security, respect, agency, and ultimately get what they want. So thank you. Thanks for being here. It's another short one. I think this will be the short summer series. And all the things. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can sign up for courses. You can listen to more episodes. Everything will be linked in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. I didn't ask a lot of questions in this episode. I was kind of on a roll. I would love to hear from you. I would love to know what you're thinking about, how this episode may have impacted you, your own journey with releasing fear and force from your day-to-day habits or your success strategies, how you've been able to tune into what it is that you want, grow your impact, grow your ability to dream and vision into what it is that you want next, what your next big thing is. So please share, and I'll catch you on the flip side.